Hello everyone and welcome to Rad Chat, the first therapeutic radiographer-led oncology podcast. This is podcast number 34. My name is Naaman Anderson and I'm joined by my fellow host Joe McNamara. A big thank you to our last guest, Beverly Harden, who talks about her career, health education in England and the project she's involved in. If you haven't had a chance yet, please do go and take a listen. So we're very pleased to introduce our guest for the evening, Shannon Johnson, who will be discussing her career to date and the College of Radiographers Industry Partnership Scheme, or CoRIPS, research grant that she won. Hi, Shannon.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Naaman and Joe, and thanks for having me on tonight. My name is Shannon, and I'm a senior rotational therapeutic radiographer. So I'm able to rotate through pre-treatment, treatment, and the review service. I graduated in 2019 from the University of West of England in Bristol, and I'm currently working at the Beacon Centre at Somerset NHS Foundation Trust in Taunton in Somerset. And I've always been sort of really interested in promoting the profession of therapeutic radiography. I'm a STEM ambassador. I'm part of the outreach and work experience team, and actually been lucky enough to have won an award with Naaman here, where we implemented a number of outreach projects and sort of work experience around Somerset and sort of the wider UK. And I'm also sort of a part of the wellbeing and inclusion team at work, and I feel like really privileged to be able to support both patients and in this role, both patients and staff. And I think it's obviously been so important in sort of the last couple of years, especially obviously everything going on in the pandemic. And on top of this, I've also, an ambassador for Radiotherapy UK, so involved in lots of fundraising with both Joe and Naaman, and advocating sort of as a therapeutic radiographer about the great profession that we work in. And also been recently been working, sort of following on from where Naaman was in Taunton before, the 5K Your Way sort of for Taunton, so sort of setting that up and sort of getting lots of patients and sort of staff involved, so it's been really good.
Doing quite a lot, Shannon.
It's quite a lot.
It's nice, it shows kind of how we can diversify into so many different things with our role. I think it's a theme we've come across quite a lot. And obviously the work we did was amazing. So was it 3,000 plus students we engaged with across Somerset, which is, I think is, we talk about impact a lot, don't we? And I think that was great. The best bit of impact was I think 4 or 5 students have now considered doing radiotherapy as a career after all the kind of work experience work that we did, which was really nice.
Yeah, it's amazing to see everything you've done, Shannon. Can I ask, what got you into therapeutic radiography?
I kind of fell into it a little bit by accident, so I didn't really know what the profession was, so that's why I feel like my passion comes from, really. So it's a blessing in disguise, so I'm very grateful for having this opportunity now. So.
And what was it? How did you fall into it? Did you find it on the internet? Did you speak to someone?
I was actually supposed to be doing diagnostic.
Right,
So,
okay.
As a lot of people I know who have had the same thing, so diagnostic radiography. And then it was the sort of last year of all the bursaries at university, so it was a lot of competition. I remember I got my sort of A-level grades and I missed out by 1 grade. So I sort of called up the uni. They're like, okay, like we'll try and keep your place for as long as possible, get it remarked. I got it remarked. It went up, so I got what I needed. But they actually ran out of place on diagnostic radiography course.
Oh no!
They're like, we do have the radiotherapy course. They're like, so like it's still a type of radiography. So would you be interested in that? And I was like, oh yeah, definitely. Like, I read a little bit about it, and it sounded really interesting. And honestly, a blessing in disguise, because I love it. So.
It's definitely the profession for you. I know so many people who maybe looked at other allied health professions or medicine or dentistry and for whatever reason didn't get the grades, or just before kind of making that leap to university found out about radiotherapy and oncology or therapeutic radiography, and it seems lots of practitioners find out that way. So I know as part of kind of some of the experiences that you've had recently, you've been looking specifically at doing some research to outreach and using all the experience and the knowledge that you've gained within your STEM ambassador role. So do you want to tell us a little bit about kind of CoRIPS, what it stands for, what the process was that you went through?
Yeah, definitely. So I was sort of doing a little bit of research when I was at uni, and sort of got interested through that way. And then, after uni, I was sort of looking at, okay, like how can I sort of expand my research and the sort of knowledge behind it. That I came across CoRIPS, and I've spoken to like a few colleagues maybe at work about it. So it actually stands for the College of Radiographers Industry Partnership Scheme Research Grant. So it's a bit of a mouthful, and it's part of the sort of College of Radiographers commitment to implementing the Society and College of Radiographers' new research strategy. So it's about sort of funding small grants for projects related to any aspect of the science and practice of radiography as a whole. And there's sort of a variety of sort of bids, so anything from sort of £5,000 for a smaller project, and anything up to £10,000 for one sort of a larger project. And so it could be absolutely anything. So if there's anyone out there who has an idea that they are interested in exploring further, but they don't really know where to start, it's a great scheme to get involved with. And it's a really good way to support someone who has sort of no previous research experience, so like me, undertake sort of a research project and sort of develop this further. And I found this is sort of a really good way of sort of getting my foot in the door to research. As a student, I found it, really daunting, but also really exciting. So I remember at university, we had several guest speakers who had published a lot of research papers and were ongoing with a number of projects. And this was actually really inspiring, but also really terrifying, as I didn't really know where to start. So I think I found it really important to speak to other professionals and people that you sort of look up to and admire, who also have, a passion which is very similar to you and the sort of subject that you're thinking of researching, but also people that have experience generally in researching, and asking them how their journey went. And I think this was a huge part for me about networking and sort of moving my research journey a little bit further. So I've been able to find other people and professionals who are really incredibly passionate about the same topic as me, and been able to sort of connect with them online. So it's been quite crazy, really. So I managed to start my official CoRIPS project, I think, in October 2021. So the grant actually funded me and 3 other research members, so for a certain period of our time to sort of work on the project. So every week for sort of a 6-month period, I actually get a day off clinical service to sort of get on with it. So it's been really, really good, and a really good way of just actually getting stuck in and having that sort of protected time to get on with it. And the team I've been working with have been absolutely amazing. So obviously I've had Joe, so you've been an amazing part of the team, also as well as Zoe Grant and Kim Meeking, and we've actually connected and done all of our project online so far. So it's been crazy because we live, in different parts of the country, and Kim lives the other side of the world. So it's been interesting to do everything, and obviously the joys of technology has been great. But yeah, they've been really, really supportive, and something that I'd recommend to anybody who's a bit nervous about starting research, or not really sure sort of where to go. If they've got a little idea, it could be absolutely anything.
I think getting the foot in the door is really important, isn't it? You don't always get that. I think, as you said, it's quite scary, even for people who are at the beginning of their careers or even towards the end. So 20, 30 years in, and they think, oh, actually, there's a bit of research I really like. Even that kind of taking that leap of faith is really difficult. So it's good that there's a scheme like this for people who might be a bit more junior to the world of research. And I think the networking side is amazing. So professional Twitter, as much as people don't always like Twitter, I've definitely got into it a lot more and more. We've got a MedRad Journal Club. You meet different people, as I said, from across the world, and you're just sitting on your sofa, but everyone's so nice and they want to support you through it. So I know you mentioned Kim, but yeah, Kim Meeking and Dr. Amanda Balderson, they really helped me with my first solo piece as well. So it's nice to have that kind of radiographer, I don't know, in your corner, I suppose. So you've got a good team there, Shannon.
Definitely, and exactly. I think, taking that leap of faith is something that's really daunting, and it's so easy to get stuck in that position of, oh my goodness, should I do it? But I found that it's really important to just sort of put yourself out there. And this is found definitely the best way of pursuing a subject that you're really passionate about. And yeah, a massive shout out to my team, because they've been so supportive. And for somebody who's not had any experience in research, it's so good to have, all the different skills and qualities that each of them bring. So I'm really thankful for that.
And I have not paid you or encouraged you to come on purely to talk about our team, I promise. I have to say though, it's always a real privilege to work with anyone throughout therapeutic radiography on any projects. But I would say from kind of my experience, and probably speaking for Zoe and Kim as well, that actually it helps us. So, you know, it's easy to consider yourself to be a mentor or to coach people, but actually you need to practice those skills. And, you know, even working in education without having the opportunity to kind of support people closely or from a long arm or, you know, just purely digitally, that actually ensures that we maintain skills and develop skills and knowledge along the way as well. So it is definitely a two-way partnership. And I've already learnt loads from you doing this project as well. So, you know, from that perspective, it's definitely, you know, teamwork makes the dream work. And I'd definitely say as well that the CoRIPS opportunity is really important. So, you know, it can be quite daunting, but I have to say the Society College of Radiographers website has so much resource available for people to access. So anyone who is looking to look at CoRIPS and see what potentially they might be able to access, there are lots of inspiring stories. So Laura Charlesworth was someone that I saw go through the CoRIPS project, and also Mel Clarkson, so from Sheffield Hallam. But from seeing others do projects like that, you also get to learn from them, and their experiences then get disseminated. So you'll quite likely find that, you know, from you going for CoRIPS, you might find other people are inspired in your department to do it as well. And likewise, they may be sitting there going, oh, it's really scary to kind of dip my toe in the waters of research. But by observing you going through that process, I think is really important. And definitely having that protected time. I think we've heard it from lots of professionals on the podcast previously, but it is fine to be able to do, you know, nice things for the profession in our own time, but it becomes quite stagnant, or you start something and you're not able to finish it, or you get frustrated with yourself because you're kind of spreading yourself quite thinly. And I know I probably speak from personal experience of doing that. But it is important that if you're able to get that continual professional development time, you're able to put the time that it deserves into it. And I think that's really important. So it's great that the department's behind you in giving you that time and support, really.
Definitely, because I think, you know, it's when thinking about it and talking to sort of the rest of the team, it's actually quite a big project that we're working on. So, you know, looking at, you know, standardizing, you know, national outreach projects. So it is quite big. So, you know, having that protected time, like you said, is so important. And especially for things like, you know, your well-being and a really good work-life balance, it's been a really good way of sort of splitting up what needs to be done and sort of prioritizing, you know, things that are really important. So yeah, it's been a really good mix. So anybody who is really interested, like Joe said, have a look at the Society and College of Radiographers website. The CoRIPS project, I think they've got 2 dates. There's usually a submission date in April and a submission date in October. So the Society and College are also really, really supportive. So if you've got any questions, you can email anybody who sort of works there. And you know, I spoke to a lot of people who were working there, and they were really supportive and offered lots of tips and hints, and obviously what they want to hear. People on the panel sort of deciding who gets the funding. So it's a bit of an anxious wait once you've submitted it, but definitely worth it.
And Shannon, just for, because I feel very privileged because I know lots about it, but for anyone who is sitting and listening, do you want to go into a little bit more detail about what it is that you're actually looking at and what you hope to achieve?
Yeah, definitely. So as a team, we're looking at sort of standardizing outreach for radiotherapy across the UK. So we've sort of had a look, and we've noticed that everything is so different, and we're not sure what is attracting people to the profession. You know, one, because they don't know about it, or two, because they just have no idea and they just sort of turn up to anything career based. And I found out that, you know, even when I was at school, nobody, not even a career advisor, told me about radiotherapy, you know, anything like that. So I think it's really important to make sure that we're sort of promoting the profession generally, but this sort of research is very specific into finding out what works outreach wise, and something that, you know, if it works for radiotherapy, maybe it could work for other allied health professions. So, you know, if we can help one profession which is, you know, struggling to recruit, then maybe we can help others. So we're sort of looking specifically at sort of first year students across the UK who've enrolled in a therapeutic radiography course, and seeing what attracted them to the profession and seeing if there's any sort of themes within that. So look out, first year students. A questionnaire should be coming your way very soon. And then we'll be looking at sort of anybody who helps sort of educate students or sort of promote the profession, and sending out a questionnaire to all of those professionals. And it will be a lot of people and a lot of data to analyse, but I think it's so important to sort of get all this data, the sort of raw data, and sort of, have a look about, those common themes or, the misconceptions of what people thought about it, and what we can do as a team to help implement sort of a strategy that will help, or, an educational session or something like that, which can really help promote the profession and even just raise the awareness of radiotherapy generally.
I suppose it must be really nice to follow through with your dissertation research as well. It's not something that happens very often. I think when you go into it with your research supervisor or academic supervisor at uni, they always say, it'd be really great to get it published and go down that route. But I suppose, just because I'm curious, how did the idea kind of grow when you were doing your dissertation? Because I know you did a survey. I'm going to embarrass you a bit, because I remember we went to your school and we spoke there, and some of the teachers were, Shannon this, Shannon that. Amazing. Absolutely loved you. And it was nice to see that, because obviously that passion's been there all the time. So right through from school, and then you've been able to take some research back in there once you've started.
Definitely. And I think, as people know, that our profession of therapeutic radiography is, not known by many. And we all have like this really strong drive and passion to change this. And it's something that I, like you said, have been interested in from when I first enrolled. And as I said earlier, it was a degree that I fell into by accident, but I wouldn't change that at all. And if I'd have known about this previously, or or career advisor had mentioned this to me when I was at sixth form, I'd definitely started promoting the profession sooner. So it wasn't until I started speaking to sort of my friends and other students studying healthcare courses that actually had no idea what radiotherapy was. So it was really crazy for me to hear, as I had such a, this radiotherapy had such a huge impact on patients undergoing cancer treatments. And I want to make it my mission to change the perception of people's understanding of what they thought radiotherapy was, but also educating the wider population on how incredible this treatment is and the wonderful team of professionals who work in oncology and radiotherapy. So my actual sort of dissertation project was the perception on radiotherapy and an investigation into the awareness and recruitment crisis. And this was a great way for me to experience what primary research was actually like, even though it was quite scary. And having that support with the university. So I think that's a really good step. So if you're sort of a student and you're, looking to do your dissertation, sort of taking that sort of leap of faith like we spoke about earlier, it is incredibly daunting, but utilize that support that you have around you and your supervisor. So I know, I was thinking, maybe I'll just do a literature review, but this is actually what I was really passionate about, and I wanted to make a change, even if it was something really small. So it gave me a feel of how exciting carrying out research could be. And how I could interpret these results. So like Noman said, I went back to my old school, and I was sort of lucky enough to do sort of a little pilot of an educational session and investigate sort of 16 to 18-year-old age range about their knowledge of radiotherapy. And as you can imagine, no one knew much at all. And that's kind of how everything started. And I was lucky enough to present sort of my results and my dissertation at the annual radiotherapy conference in Brighton in January 2020. And this is where it sparked interest from other professionals who are also passionate about promoting the profession too. So that's where I got to meet people like Joe, Zoe, and sort of Kim, and sort of learning how we could then take it a little bit further and apply for a little bit more funding through CoRIPS, to make sure that we could have a longer lasting impression and educate sort of the wider population about radiotherapy.
I think it's amazing that, you obviously, as I said, taking your research forward. And the key point I think you mentioned is that, lots of people don't know our profession, and maybe people don't always appreciate our profession until they come into contact with it, whether it's a family member going through treatment or themselves. I know it's either you've fallen into radiotherapy as a career, or you've known someone who's had cancer treatment in some form, and that's how people get into it. But as you said, the more people that kind of know about our profession, what we've discussed with previous guests is how important therapeutic radiographers are within the cancer pathway, and how like diverse our roles can really be and what we can actually get involved with. And I know, Joe, we talked about this already, but the video that you were involved in for Macmillan Cancer Support with the patient following the head and neck patient, having radiotherapy following them through, and all the kind of impact. I know you don't like me saying fluffy, but it is that lovely balance of technical and interpersonal skills that really helps.
Yeah, we were really lucky that JJ was involved in that project and having the patient at the forefront. But I think it is just trying to get across to other people, other healthcare professionals. When Dr. Liz O'Riordan came on and said she'd been a breast consultant surgeon for 20 odd years and didn't know what a therapeutic radiographer was, and yet she was consulting for radiotherapy. It was slightly heartbreaking. So from that perspective, I think it also highlighted what we needed to do to make sure that we were obviously ensuring that people know who we are as a profession. And that's not to say that we would consider ourselves to be any better than any other healthcare profession out there. It's nothing to do with that at all. But I think it's about making sure that we that we get known about to help with promoting the profession, as much as occupational therapists or drama therapists or art therapists. So I think that's really important.